Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Rebirth, Part 2, From the Mother. In rebirth, it is not the external being, that which is formed by parents, environment, and circumstances, the mental, the vital, and the physical, that is born again. It is only the psychic being that passes from body to body. Logically, then, neither the mental nor the vital being can remember past lives or recognize itself in the character or mode of life of this or that person. The psychic being alone can remember. And it is by becoming conscious of our psychic being that we can have, at the same time, exact impressions about our past lives. Besides, it is much more important for us to fix our attention upon what we want to become than upon what we have been. 2nd of April, 1935. Question: is a soul which is conscious of you reborn immediately after its departure, or does it have to wait long? Mother: every fully conscious and developed psychic being is free to choose what its next life will be and when that life will take place. Question: does this soul come to the ashram after its birth to accomplish your divine mission? Mother: that is its usual choice when it reincarnates immediately. Question: is this soul capable of choosing its birth and enjoying the happiness of the ashram life? Mother: if it is fully developed, it is capable of doing so. The bodily transformation will be the supreme spiritual rebirth, an utter casting away of all the ordinary past, for spiritual birth means the constant throwing away of our previous associations and circumstances, and proceeding to live as if at each virgin moment we were starting life anew. It is to be free of what is called karma, the stream of our past actions. In other words, a liberation from the bondage of nature's common activity of cause and effect. When this cutting away of the past is triumphantly accomplished in the consciousness, all those mistakes, blunders, errors, and follies which, still vivid in our recollection, cling to us like leeches sucking our lifeblood, drop away, leaving us most joyfully free. This freedom is not a mere matter of thought. It is the most solid, practical, material fact. We are really free. Nothing binds us. Nothing affects us. There is no obsession of responsibility. If we want to counteract, annul, or outgrow our past, we cannot do it by mere repentance or similar things. We must forget that the untransformed past has ever been and enter into an enlightened state of consciousness which breaks loose from all moorings. To be reborn means to enter, first of all, into our psychic consciousness, where we are one with the divine and eternally free from the reactions of karma. Without becoming aware of the psychic, it is not possible to do so. But once we are securely conscious of the true soul in us, which is always surrendered to the divine, all bondage ceases. Then, incessantly, life begins afresh. Then the past no longer cleaves to us. To give you an idea of the final height of spiritual rebirth, I may say that there can be a constant experience of the whole universe actually disappearing at every instant and being at every instant newly created. As to rebirth, it must be confessed that no rule holds good for all cases. Some people are reborn almost immediately. It most often happens with parents that a part of them gets assimilated into their children, if the latter are very much attached to them. Some people, however, take centuries and even thousands of years to be reincarnated. They wait for the necessary conditions to mature, which will provide them with a suitable milieu. If one is yogically conscious, he can actually prepare the body of his next birth. Before the body is born, he shapes and molds it, so that it is he who is the true maker of it, while the parents of the new child are only the adventitious, purely physical agents. I must here remark in passing that there is a common misconception about rebirth. People believe that it is they who are reincarnated, yet this is a palpable error. Though it is true that parts of their being are amalgamated with others, and so act through new bodies, their whole being is not reborn, because of the simple fact that what they evidently mean by their self is not a realized individual entity, but their exterior personality, the personality composed of the outward name and form. Hence, it is wrong to say that A is reborn as B. A is a personality organically distinct from B and cannot be said to have reincarnated as B. You would be right only if you said that the same line of consciousness uses both A and B as the instruments of its manifestation. For what does remain constant is the psychic being, which is not the outward personality at all, but something deep within, something which is not the exterior name and form. Question. Sweet Mother, why do we believe in rebirth? What were we before our present state? Mother, those who have had the memory of past lives have declared the reality of rebirth. There have been, and there still are, beings whose inner consciousness is sufficiently developed for them to know for certain that this consciousness has manifested in bodies other than their present one, and that it will survive the disappearance of this body. It is not a theory to be discussed. It is an indisputable experience for one who has had it. Blessings. 5th November, 1969. There comes a time when the being is fully developed, fully individualized, fully master of itself and its destiny. When this being, or one of these psychic beings, has reached that stage and takes birth in a human being, that makes a very great difference. The human being, so to say, is born free. He is not tied to circumstances, to surroundings, to his origin and atavism, like ordinary people. He comes into the world with the purpose of doing something, with a work to carry out, a mission to fulfill. From this point of view, his progress in growth has come to an end. That is, it is not indispensable for him to take birth again in a body. Till then, rebirth is a necessity, for it is through rebirth that he grows. It is in the physical life and in a physical body that he gradually develops and becomes a fully conscious being. But once he is fully formed, he is free, in this sense that he can take birth or not, at will. So there, one kind of progress stops. Resurrection means for us the falling off of the old consciousness. But it is not only a rebirth, a sudden change which completely breaks with the past. There is a certain continuity in it between dying to your old self, your low exterior nature, and starting quite anew. In the experience of resurrection, the movement of discarding the old being is closely connected with that of the rising up from it of the new consciousness and the new strength, so that from what is thrown off, the best can unite in a new creation with what has succeeded. The true significance of resurrection is that the divine consciousness awakes from the unconsciousness into which it has gone down and lost itself. The divine consciousness becomes once more aware of itself, in spite of its descent into the world of death, night, and obscurity. That world of obscurity is darker even than our physical night. If you came up after plunging into it, you would actually find the most impenetrable night clear. Just as returning from the true light of the divine consciousness, the supramental light without obscurity, you would find the physical sun black. But even in the depths of that supreme darkness, the supreme light is hidden. Let that light and that consciousness awaken in you. Let there be the great resurrection. In some part of our consciousness, there is a remembrance. But this is a dangerous subject, because the human mind is too fond of romance. As soon as it comes to know something of the truth of rebirth, it wants to build up beautiful stories around it. Many people would tell you wonderful tales of how the world was built and how it will proceed in the future, how and where you were born in the past and what you will be hereafter, the lives you have lived and the lives you will still live. All this has nothing to do with spiritual life. The true remembrance of past births may indeed be part of an integral knowledge, but it cannot be got by that way of imaginative fancies. Evolution, that is to say, cultural and civilization, describes a more or less regular spiral movement around the earth, and the results of one civilization, it may be said, slowly go to form another. Then, when the total development is harmonious, this creates simultaneously the field of action and the actors, in the sense that at the time of the great artistic periods, all the conditions were favorable to the development of art. And naturally, the fact that all the circumstances were favorable attracted the men who could use them. There have been concrete movements like that, great ages like that of the Italian Renaissance or the similar period in France, almost at the same time, when artists from all countries were gathered at the same place because the conditions were favorable to the development of their art. This is one of the reasons, so to say, external reason, for the formation of civilizations. There is another. This is that, from an occult point of view, it is always the same forces and same beings which incarnate during all the ages of artistic beauty upon earth, and that, according to occultists, there are cycles of rebirth. Beings return, group themselves through affinity at the time of birth, so it happens that regularly almost all come together for a similar action. Some occultists have studied this question and given very precise numbers based upon the actual facts of the development of the earth. They have said that once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years, once in 5,000 years, etc., certain cycles were repeated, and that certain great civilizations appeared every 5,000 years, and that it was, according to their special knowledge, the same people who came back. This is not quite exact. That is why I am not going into details. But in a sense, this is true. It is the same forces which are at work. It is the same forces, and they are grouped according to their affinities, and for a reason which may be quite material, or for a mental or cyclic reason, they reunite at a certain place. And in this place there is a new civilization, or a special progress in a civilization, or a kind of effervescence, blossoming, flowering of beauty, as in the great ages in Greece, Egypt, India, Italy, Spain, everywhere. In all the countries of the world, there have been more or less beautiful periods.